Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling.
And welcome once again to another edition of the Juice Box. I am Juice Springsteen. This should be an interesting little show. Not too long, not too short. Pretty much every single week I do the same spiel. A lot of interesting takes. We had Blood and Guts Wednesday night. Interesting stuff on Raw this past week. Collision was actually very, very intriguing. Battle of the Belts, not so much, but still some good wrestling nevertheless. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at JuicySteen. You can follow me on Instagram at JuicyWrestlingCloset, JuicySteen.podbean.com. Find this show on iTunes, Google Podcasts. If you do listen to this on iTunes, it would be fantastic if you could rate and review this thing 5 stars. That would be incredible. Don't really know how we're going to tackle all of the stuff that we've got to tackle today. Let's start off with, though, something that did happen, at least earlier today as we're recording, which is Thursday. The Undertaker One Dead Man Show is coming to Pittsburgh at the Byham Theater, November 11th. That is a Saturday night. Looks to be a fun event. I've heard good things about this. It seems as if it's like a podcast / stand-up type show documenting, the Undertaker's life and career in the business of pro wrestling. And much like a stand-up show, we're going to have to lock our phones up, which I find fascinating. You always want to know what kind of stuff's going to be heard at these shows, and no one else will be able to hear it because there won't be any recording devices at all. So that'll be fun. I did secure tickets to that event. Should be a fun time later on this year. I do believe he's going to Indianapolis and some other spots. I'm not really sure. But yeah, looking forward to that for sure. I think we should just do WWE and then flip into AEW. And then I do believe we will close out with whatever happened with Blood and Guts last night and the MJF Adam Cole saga, which I like to delve into a little deeper. Not too deep. Like I always say, this is a long show that goes short or a short show that goes long. There's really no, the most consistently inconsistent podcast on the web, the Juice Box. But yeah, let's get into it all. We are what, two weeks away now, I do believe, from, or three Saturdays now from SummerSlam. So that card is shaping up. Kind of. I say kind of because a lot of matches seem to be in place, but nothing really set in stone outside of Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor for the World Heavyweight title, and which is fun because that happened 2016, 7 years ago. They're running that back. And I do believe a similar outcome could take place. So we'll get there. Cody versus Brock in a, quote, singles rubber match. Don't know what that means outside of it just being the third match of a 3-match thing, So I don't really get what they're trying to pull in regards to selling this match. Now, there is no stipulation as of press time, as of record time. So if we get those details, of course, you guys will be up to date on that, as you always are when you do listen to the Juice Box. But I would also assume we're going to get Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey. I assume we're going to get Becky versus Trish. I assume we'll get some sort of tag match, for sure. Rhea will probably face Raquel Rodriguez. We'll probably get Charlotte and Asuka and Bianca. And then, of course, we'll probably get Roman and Jey Uso, which will be fun. So, it should be a fun show. Like, it's the first Michigan SummerSlam since 1993, where Lex Luger famously defeated Yokozuna by countout to not win the WWE title. But yeah, and this is the first Ford Field event since Mania 23. So that's going to be 16 years removed from that. So that's pretty cool. And of course, we're finally getting another SummerSlam in August. This normally is an August event, but last year it was in July, which was quite fascinating. Yeah, so that's SummerSlam. Should be something to behold once we get it. We got 3 more weeks to build, 3 more Saturdays, 2 more weeks. So yeah, like I said, Cody, Brock, nothing really is happening there. And it seems as if, Gunther probably going to face Drew McIntyre. That is the assumption I'm making right now. I'm assuming that's what happens if all goes to plan. And I've said it before. I'll say it again, and I will continue to say it unless Gunther loses at SummerSlam, which I think would be a horrific mistake. But Gunther should hold this title until at least into the first couple weeks in September to fully surpass the Honky Tonk Man as longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time. I do believe that's the move going forward. So outside of that, we also had Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan losing their women's tag team titles to Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green. Now, those two, Green and Deville, I've thought for a bit now, since they've combined them as this Karen, let me speak to the manager tag team, that they've been doing very good work. And I really, really enjoy their off-screen, or like their on-screen behind, outside of the ring presentation for sure. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do now that they have the gold. Hopefully they can build upon that as we go forward. Maybe they bring forth some new opponents. These titles, I don't want to say they're in limbo, and they're definitely not on, quote, life support, but it's like the whole division is just women that are just combined, thrown together. So it is nice to see, a Shayna and Ronda, although that was short-lived because they're having a feud now. And then Sonya and Chelsea, they have actually grown a lot, character growth, the recent weeks. So I do enjoy that as part of this women's revolution continues to plug forth. But outside of that, not too much happened on Raw. Nakamura, though, there was an interesting piece of business after the show. After there was an interview after his match with Big Bronson Reed, because he couldn't just be Bronson Reed. And I'm sure everybody that watches WWE saw Bronson Reed and said, he should be small Bronson Reed. He really should be. But he did. It seems like a Vince McMahon thing to call him Big Bronson Reed, but here we are. But Nakamura made a little bit of a note saying, he's tired of people getting into his business, and it was a bizarre little promo, but I did enjoy it, and I think there is some meat on the bone there. We'll see what type of meat and where he goes. Hopefully he'd challenge for a title. Not sure how high up a title, but it remains to be seen. And then, of course, the Viking Raiders and Alpha Academy actually had the best match. And that, what was the match called? I don't even know what it was called. A Viking rules match, I guess. Okay. But there was a lot of insane spots. Chad Gable was an unbelievable pro wrestler. I mean, I don't really need to tell you that, but he has really shined in the last few years now, developing the shoosh gimmick, really honing in on his comedy with Otis, although still putting forth such a solid effort in ring to complement the outside of the ring stuff that he's actually grown into. So it's been nice seeing that. Let's go now. I'm going to go to SmackDown briefly here, just as a bridge, because we are going to talk about NXT, because something pretty big happened on NXT, which is going to lead into the SummerSlam stuff. So we had the upcoming. We have a SummerSlam, or the SummerSlam rules of engagement with Jey Uso. Basically, what's going to happen this week seems as if we're going to maybe find out, is this an official match? What type of match is it going to be? Sorry about that. A lot of different things into place with what type of match we're going to get with those two guys at the pay-per-view. Or the PLE, excuse me. Just readjusted everything here, so if there's any extra noise, I do apologize for that. But yeah, so we'll probably find out this week what type of match they're going to have. I'm still hoping for Cody and Brock to have some sort of stipulation with a bull rope. I think that's right up their alley. I think it's perfect for those two guys to have a third match for sure. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I'm not going to hold my breath. With Jey and Roman, though, cage match, is that too much? I don't know. I don't know what is going to be the right call there, but something else that interested me. So for almost 3 years now, with the Bloodline being the focal point of SmackDown, Raw, WWE in general, and we've had multiple WrestleManias now where we've been hopeful that The Rock could come in. He literally is the head of the table. He is probably the biggest star that family has, even though Roman's huge and will be a movie star, and Yokozuna was a big deal, like Umaga and Rikishi. So many guys have had so many great careers, but The Rock really, truly is number one, right? Hasn't happened at 38, 39. I do believe last week I stated that Mania 40 is my cutoff point. If he doesn't show up either at that event, leading up to that event, promoted for that event, whatever, I think it's I think that's it. I don't think, like, this is the most opportune, perfect time for The Rock to be involved in a big time storyline. And I will say, now that the Screen Actors Guild and the writer's strike, the big strike going on in Hollywood, I want to say that's going to free up some space for your John Cena's and your Rocks. But this is what I've got to say here. SmackDown, Grayson Waller cuts a promo and says every single week his family is imploding, but he's worried about me, referring to The Rock discussing Grayson Waller over the past couple of weeks. I do believe I was on Twitter, I want to say. And Waller said that if The Rock wants the Grayson Waller rub, he knows where to find him. So you're going to tell me that the Bloodline, which has been top of WWE for upwards of 3 years now, but Grayson Waller is going to be the one to recruit The Rock to show up for a segment has nothing to do with the bloodline. First of all, good on Grayson Waller for having that type of spot. Doubling down on the social media of it all. I think it's a really strong idea. I'm sure it wasn't just his idea, but an idea nevertheless. But just the fact that, hold on here. All right. Just for the fact that Grayson Waller can get this after John Cena and him had such a fun segment at Money in the Bank, it really seems as if they're gonna push Waller potentially to the moon at some point. Whether that's sooner or later, whether that's, big moment at SummerSlam, big moment at WrestleMania coming up, I don't know what that really entails, but for Grayson Waller to be the one to recruit The Rock, it's unbelievable. I can't believe that they're even acknowledging that The Rock is even in the ether of WWE, and it's being mentioned by someone that's not a member of the bloodline. So kudos to Grayson Waller. What the hell do I care? Let's see Grayson Waller getting into it with The Rock. If The Rock wants to show up on WWE TV and not want to get involved with the bloodline, honestly, that's his loss. We all would love to see it, right? And he's the great one. This is less to do with The Rock as it does, it's less to do with the respect of The Rock and more to do with I don't know. The Rock made it seem like he's made time for WWE in the past, and he has. He's made a lot of time for WWE in the past, but now all of a sudden you're gonna not necessarily give all your time, and now there's a strike. So you could give more time, but you're not gonna he's a busy guy. I get it. Who am I, Juice Springsteen, to, question The Rock in what he does? But it's just right for the taking. It's on the table. He's the head of the table. The storyline would just it writes everything writes itself, and maybe that's it though. Maybe The Rock is done. Maybe he's done doing in-ring work, because it would 1,000% require a Roman Reigns versus The Rock match to really satisfy the end of this storyline in most people's eyes, So I just don't know if, is it going to even happen? Could it potentially happen? I don't think so. Other stuff on SmackDown here. Potentially Hurt Business 2.0. Bobby Lashley was discussing some talking shop with the Street Profits, and I would not hate an edgier, badass Street Profits, because that is how you get Montez Ford to the top. And that's a way to get Angelo Dawkins into the mix and not sink if his partner swims. So I'm a big fan of that. So let's just go to NXT a couple of days ago. Dirty Dom Mysterio, who, by the way, with his appearance on NXT, skyrocketed the ratings almost up to 800,000 viewers, which is pretty damn crazy for NXT these days, and they have been steadily increasing. When NXT 2.0 began, I was interested. A lot of people were critical, 2.0, the next version, all those types of monikers always seem to not be satisfied to an extent that people like. So when they go, oh, it's NXT 2.0, oh, they're going to try to do what they used to do, and it's not as good, so we hate it, right? But I enjoyed that. It's almost as if WWE hit a hard reset on NXT and said, hey, if we're going to cultivate our own talent in this, for baseball terms,
if we're going to cultivate this farm system, and we want the guys and girls from this program to eventually get promoted to the main roster of Raw and SmackDown and work those shows, work the PLEs, work the house show live events, what have you, then we really need to, push forth a product that we want to see on the main stage. Let's start these gimmicks in NXT 2.0. Let's give them a character, even if it's lame to start. Let's drive it home. Let's keep putting some pressure, and let's see what happens. Keep giving these different gimmicks a shot, and I think a lot of those things are hitting. And then they also are utilized, and so one, I love that, because NXT used to just be, independent talent that come over and they got signed, your Pac, your, Cesaro, and these guys that were Performance Center guys, Sami Zayn, Performance Center, and they kind of graduate to NXT, and NXT became such a hot brand from 2015 to 2018, 2019. But now all those guys and girls are practically on Raw, SmackDown, or in AEW. So it's tough to say that it wasn't warranted. But those years are long behind us. So now we're in NXT 2.0. Then that went away. And now we just have this version of NXT where, like I said, they kind of cultivate their own talent. But at the same time, guys like Baron Corbin, guys like Dolph Ziggler, guys like Dom Mysterio. And Dom Mysterio, who never was in NXT, went straight to Raw and SmackDown with his father. Finn Balor comes to mind as well. Guys that are, it's not a demotion. It is a, let's hone in on the craft. Let's get better. Let's get the reps in. Let's put over some talent, whether they win the matches or not. I want to make sure this, guy, this wrestler, this girl, they can elevate because of what I do with them in the ring. It doesn't have to be me losing. It doesn't have to be something ridiculous. Just being in the ring with an established talent can really help those younger talent out. And I think that's what they've been trying to do. And Dom Mysterio goes down to NXT and he wins the North American title. Arguably one of the most beautiful titles in pro wrestling today. But I love the win. I love the creative of it. I love that it gives Dom a lot of heat. 1. 2, it turns a lot of people over to NXT because now you hate Dom. You want to see him get his ass beat. You got to watch NXT. And 3, now I know this is probably more passe, and maybe I'm just thinking of name recognition and value alone, but just follow me here. Rey Mysterio was pegged as, this is going to bring a whole new audience, to our viewers. And that's, SmackDown was heavy in those markets, when Rey Mysterio was really coming up through the ranks. And now you got Dom Mysterio on NXT. I think those ratings are going to take an uptick as well because of that. So I really love the, addition, subtraction, mixing, calling up, putting down. Because we even saw, Braun Breaker get a shot at Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins came down to have a match with him. Braun Breaker looked great, But everybody looks better. Nothing really has to happen. And you move on. You move forward. So, new North American champ, Dom Mysterio. Love that. And now we get Dom as the North American champ in NXT. Rhea is the women's champion. Damian Priest has the Money in the Bank briefcase. And Finn Balor has nothing. But Finn Balor has a match August 5th in Detroit against Seth freaking Rollins at Ford Field at SummerSlam. 7 years in the making. Can Finn do it again? You'd like to think he could. And if he does, let's talk about this. I've made comparisons now on Twitter about this, but if Finn were to win this match, the pay-per-view SummerSlam could go off the air. The PLE could be done with all 4 members of the Judgment Day celebrating with their respective title or accomplishment, if you're referring to Damian Priest. A la Armageddon 03 with Batista, Randy Orton, Ric Flair, and Triple H, Evolution. They held all the gold at the end of 03. It pretty much kickstarted the Triple H reign of terror in 04. And while I don't think there's a reign of terror coming from the Judgment Day, it has been posited. It has been interesting to read how WWE plans. Now, again, I've been thinking about this as well, at least on the Bloodline side. How is WWE going to move forward after the Bloodline is over? Now, I know it might not be as cut and dry for an ending for the Bloodline. I think Roman could lose and you still get some months out of it. I really don't know what that looks like. But to me, I think once it kind of shuts down production, maybe Roman's out, maybe Roman goes to Hollywood, maybe the Usos kind of do their own thing in the tag division. Whatever happens with that, I really think that the Judgment Day could, in fact, take the Bloodline spot as the faction in WWE. They've done faction and gang warfare before. I believe Survivor Series 97 was nicknamed Gang Rules. You had the Boricuas, you had DOA, you had the Nation of Domination. You had the Oddities, Kai and Tai. There's so many groups and factions in WWE back in the late 90s that it's tough now where, you get so many members. I think I mentioned it too before about like you always get the Marty Jannetty. There's a guy or girl that just doesn't cut the mustard up to a level that you can appreciate or for the team. But in this case, all 4 members of the Judgment Day are not only being well received, depending on who they are, but each one of them is getting a separately large response, be it positive or negative. Rhea gets a lot of mommy chants and she's pretty over. I would say Damian Priest is pretty over as well. His imposing presence, I like that he's got the briefcase because it's a shot potentially at Roman. Finn is pretty steady as a heel. And then Dom Mysterio, 1,000% heel. So to me, I just think that the Judgment Day going forward is the, faction of the future. I think they could end up with all the gold at the end of SummerSlam. And I know it's gold and the briefcase is gold. And the North American title is red, But I do think it's a distinct possibility. And then I ask this. If Finn Balor were to win the World Heavyweight title, could Damian Priest cash in on Finn? Is that how this starts to dissolve? Does Finn win the title and Damian just act like, hey, more gold for our group? And then that's it? Does he have a scornful look? Does he have a greedy look trying to summon this energy to grab and to take and to have possession of the world title if Finn holds it? I don't know. I don't know what that looks like. But, and we'll get into it as we turn the corner to AEW and we'll close out the show. The AEW storyline with MJF and Adam Cole is giving me, I'm kind of drawing inspiration for how that's going and how it could go in regards to how Priest and Finn, because Dom and Rhea aren't going to go anywhere anytime soon. They're not going to split up anytime soon. They're perfect for the group. They're perfect for each other. And they're perfect single. Like I said, the reactions for each one of the four are pretty unique and pretty heavy at times. Pretty strong reactions for all those four. But let's get into the AEW of it all. We had Blood and Guts. And Blood and Guts was crazy. It was wild. But we'll get there. Let's start off with Collision. Collision had a lot of interesting stuff. We had probably the greatest tag team match in AEW TV history. Jay White, Juice Robinson versus FTR. Bullet Club Gold versus FTR. 2 out of 3 falls. FTR takes it. Just unbelievable. The Power and Glory finish that wasn't a finish, and just the sheer athleticism of the guys. The callbacks to the Sharpshooter and Sweet Chin Music, and they were in Calgary. I mean, a lot of stuff to behold from this match, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a fantastic match, and now we'll see next Saturday FTR taking on, we'll get there in a second, the Owen Hart Cup Tournament Final Foundation Cup Championship Belt Tournament Foundation Women's side. Willow Nightingale got the win. Ruby Soho now 0 for 2 in the Owen Hart tournament final, rather. But at least she's made the final. But it was pretty cool. I like Willow Nightingale. I really, really do. There was a running power slam that seemed to be dedicated to the British Bulldog. Both competitors wore pink in celebration of the Hearts. Loved pretty much everything about it. Loved Tony Khan's cowboy hat, as it was most definitely a stampede in Calgary on Saturday night. We had the Kings of the Black Throne in a squash, and now this weekend on Collision we get the Acclaimed challenging the House of Black for the AEW Trios title. It's a long shot, but I'm hoping the Acclaimed win it, because I don't know how much else is going on with the House of Black going forward. So maybe you kind of have them float for a bit. The Acclaimed can do so much more with the titles right now. Give Billy Gunn that one last title run. You don't have to do it again. Although he's really yoked. I think he could hang for a pretty long time after this is all said and done. But give me the Acclaim to win. I'd love to see that. And then CM Punk and Ricky Starks. This is for the Owen Hart Foundation Men's Tournament Cup Super Collision. Stark, Punk, Owen Hart. This is for the Cup final. And Ricky Starks wins the match after a combination of roll-up pins countered into a counter, where Ricky Starks held the rope for an advantage to win the match, much like an Owen Hart would. CM Punk really was dumbfounded. Bryce Remsburg claimed to have not seen anything and called it down the middle, yet numerous screenshots have appeared on my Twitter feed of Ricky Starks blatantly using the rope to assist with momentum as he pins CM Punk, with Bryce Remsburg directly staring into Ricky Starks doing that same thing. Now, you could say it was right after the 3 and he saw it. Okay, then restart the match. You don't have to disqualify anybody for having your hand on the rope, for a little bit of assistance, but you could restart the match. I mean, but I liked the angle. I really liked how Ricky Starks at the end. So they fly out Jushin Thunder Liger to hand out the cup. And Ricky Starks just walks up and just takes the trophy from Liger. And again, that seemed a little Owen Hartish. So I really enjoy what they're doing with Starks. Again, I don't know what really is going to happen going forward with that, because I think he's got a lot of meat on the bone as a face, but I think he's destined to be a heel. So we'll see how that turns out. But I'm looking forward to the next pieces of that. And then let's get into Blood and Guts, shall we? Blood and Guts was intense, to say the least. There was tables, there were chairs, there was thumbtacks, there was glass, trash cans, and also a bed of nails. Not the inmate, not a Serta mattress. This was a bed of like 1,000 nails. They weren't like little nails. This was like drill bit nails. This was insane. Now look, I've seen CZW, I've seen GCW, I've seen ECW, I've watched IWA Mid-South. I've seen the craziest of crazy wrestling. This was wild for it to be an American televised show. You know, North America main event, primetime slot, live, bed of nails. Brutal, to say the least. Wheeler Yuta gets choked out with a chain as Pac leaves the BCC. Seems like Pac is going to go on his own way. Don Callis might have to still now recruit Chris Jericho for something in regards to the BCC. A lot of blood, some guts, raining thumbtack spots, thumbtack shoe spots, giant swing. The glass was it's hard to watch. But all in all, the Golden Elite win. Nice to see Kota Ibushi out there. And we'll see what happens next, because now we have, 2 weeks and then August. So we basically have 6 more weeks until All In. And may I finally admit that we get an answer to the big question, which is, how are we going to watch All In? And we finally know. It seems as if it's going to be a $50 pay-per-view on Bleacher Report, and apparently there will be a discounted bundle to get All In and All Out at the same time for a discounted price, because they are 1 week apart from each other. So I kind of like that, and I really hope that that is something that they do. I will absolutely be buying both, especially if it's at a discounted price. That would be really nice. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, so All In, nothing really set in stone for that. Nothing set in stone at All Out either. So we'll figure it out. I'm just going to talk about this MJF Adam Cole thing, and then a couple quick notes. I'm just firing through my Twitter feed, see if I missed any little tidbit that I'd like to present to you guys on this, the 30th episode of the Juice Box. So appreciate it if you made it this far, not only on this episode, but on this show journey with me. 30 episodes is quite a bit, and I think I'm probably approaching longevity that I haven't experienced, at least since my YouTube days, because doing something once a week is something I never usually did. I would always be sporadic, or every other day, or every month, and it would never be consistent. So I'm trying to keep that going with this podcast, and it's been successful. I haven't missed one for 30 straight episodes. I put them out every Friday, and hope to keep that going forward here in this first year of the Juice Box. So thanks for hanging on with me. The MJF Adam Cole thing. So MJF and Adam Cole, they won the tag team blind eliminator tournament. They had matching gear. They have a combined song of both of their entrance songs, which was fantastic. The backstage vignettes have been incredible. So I really have enjoyed all of it. And then they win Wednesday night with the double clothesline. MJF hits a tope suicida. But at the end, MJF celebrating, and Adam Cole longingly looking at the AEW title, and MJF catches him even though Adam Cole claims he was just handing it off to MJF, and we all know what was going on there. Adam Cole goes to celebrate, and then MJF has a scowl on his face. So, the big question, who turns on who first? My answer to that is kind of short and still open-ended. I don't know who's going to turn on who first. I don't care who turns on who first because they're both incredible heels. And it's believable either way. But here's my true answer. How about just, it doesn't matter who turns on who and what the outcome of whatever title match that they do have is. I say, if you're AEW and you're Tony Khan, ride this wave as long as you can. It's organic. It's funny. It's entertaining. It's proving to be strong in the ratings. And they're really good at it, like doing this thing. Like MJF and Adam Cole really seem like, little brother, big brother, but same upbringing, or best friends that are friends by proxy, or like they have to be friends because, they live near each other. But they're kind of like agreeing on things, and they're really doing things the right way to an extent. And I think that at some point they're going to, mega powers explode and blah, blah, blah. And someone will be jealous and they'll go after the title. But my thinking here is you got to have MJF and Adam Cole, now that they're facing FTR on the 29th on Collision, have them win the tag titles. Make it even crazier. And then, that'll be the end of July. Let that run through August, and then have them either lose the tag titles and that begin the title chase for All In or All Out, whatever it takes. But I just think that the longer you ride it out, the better it is for them, the better it is for the fans, and the better it is for AEW. So we're at the end of the show. I'm just going to tap into some other notes. Trinity Fatu, brand new Knockouts World Champion. And I stated it on Twitter. Sometimes the grass is actually greener on the other side. Good for Trinity to become World Champion. Peacock is going to be doing a documentary on Cody Rhodes called Becoming Cody Rhodes, American Nightmare, or American Nightmare, #Becoming Cody Rhodes. Should be fascinating. Can't wait to watch that, although they're hiking up the price from $4.99 to $5.99 per month and changing all their tiers, so I'm sure people will be pissed off about that. Yeah, I think that might just be it for this week. The only other thing I'm noticing is with that Nakamura incident I mentioned earlier on Raw, it did seem like him and Ciampa could have their sights set on each other going forward. So that is something I would really be thrilled to see. I would really, really enjoy seeing Ciampa and Nakamura, two guys who really dominated NXT for so long, go at it on the main stage. I think that would be fantastic. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I've got for this week. A little shorter of a show, but didn't have too much to pack in. We'll have some more to touch on next week as we get 1 week closer to SummerSlam. We'll have some interesting remarks, I'm sure, from the fallout of Collision, where the Acclaimed hopefully won the Trios title. But as of that, we'll see what else happens in the next week that was and the week that will be. I have been just discussing the week that was, as I do every week here on the Juice Box, and I thank you guys once again for staying with me on this voyage. As always, Juicy Wrestling Closet on Instagram, Juicy Steen on Twitter, juicysteen.podbean.com, Juicy Steen. Oh, I said that on Twitter, but the Juice Box on iTunes and Google Podcasts is where you can find me. Rate and review this. It'd be great if you give it 5 stars or 5 straws, whichever you prefer. But yeah, I will see you guys next week. Looking forward to talking more about the world of pro wrestling right here on the Juice Box. That was the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to the Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.